Hello, everyone. It's my great honor to participate at this conference, which has a special significance to inspire the future of sustainable construction. To introduce myself, my name is Dhafer Alqahtan. I'm a PhD candidate at Syracuse University in the Civil and Environmental Engineering Department. I'll start sharing my presentation with you. So the topic for interest for today's presentation, as you can see, is Sustainability Assessment Framework for Public-Private Partnerships, specifically in highway projects. This presentation is structured as follows. First of all, I would like to give you an overview of a background. Next, we'll focus on the problem statement, and I will go through the research goal, objectives, and questions. Then I'll go on to highlight what the initial funding, and finally, I would like to finish with a conclusion. So let's start with some background information. And I would like to start off with the highway network infrastructure. Transportation infrastructure is the vital obviously to well functioning of economic activities and a key to supporting social and economic change. Highway networks are particularly critical for the economic growth and prosperity for the country because they facilitate trade, improve urban and rural communities, provide access to employment, and connect producers to markets, and so on. In fact, the United States inherited the largest highway network in the world. According to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, the road network covers approximately 4 million miles of public roadways. However, most of these roads have built by 1960. So in recent decades, the emphasis have switched from building new highways to maintaining and preserving existing ones. For example, in 2017, the US federal, state, and local governments spent on transportation infrastructure almost $300 billion. And out of this big amount, $177 billion was spent only in highways. And even though maintaining existing roads seems easier than building new ones, most governments have always struggled to finance highway projects. And the magnitude of underfunding is reflected in the current condition of the American roads. The American Society of Civil Engineers estimated recently that over 40% of the roads are in a poor condition with the grade of D. The poor condition of these roads is not only causing increase in expenditure, but also contributing to high number of accidents, more congestion, longer travel time, shipping delays, higher fuel costs, etc. So these issues lead to growing movement, plan, build, operate, and maintain the transportation system more sustainably. Also, the growing demands on transportation system and constraint on the public resources are placing tremendous pressure on the public decision makers. These issues have led to calls for more private sector involvement in the provision of transportation infrastructure through what are known as public-private partnership, or P3. P3 is a form of cooperation between public and private sector for the purpose of providing a variety of public services, covering a wide range of structure and concepts, which involves sharing of risk and responsibility between the two partners. P3s have been recently utilized in the US since the early 1990s for the infrastructure development. Transportation remain one of the primary focus area for projects. According to the Congressional Research Service, 36 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico currently have the legislation that allow P3 applications. P3 in highway projects specifically are long-term contracts that involve oversight of different issues throughout their life cycle. These issues are typically complex and costly issues that may arise from many different concerns, like legal, financial, and technical concerns. And the fact, the majority of research on P3 infrastructure applications focus on risk management, value for money analysis, technological innovation, critical success factor, key performance indicator, and so on. But very few studies have been examined the P3's performance specifically in highway projects from sustainable development perspective. Sustainability rating system has become a useful technique for appraising the development of plans, systems, and projects in the direction of sustainable development goals. Example of this rating system include Envision, Lead, Invest, Green Roads, Starts, and so on. While the existing sustainable assessment framework and the evaluation mechanism of P3s are examined, it's noticed that the rating system were mostly emphasized on the environmental issues as opposite to the social and economic. And the nature of P3s, on the other hand, consider economic aspect to be very important. Also, some characteristics that are unique to P3s or under the P3 equation and beyond what's called the trouble bottom line, such as technical, financial, and contractual, were poorly covered by these existing rating system due to the complex nature of P3. So the goal of the project is to improve decision-making processes in P3 highway project from sustainability perspective. And in order to achieve this goal, this research tried to develop an integrated sustainability assessment framework for P3 highway project that considering including multiple dimensions. The research question need to be answered. What are the factors needed to be considered, and how much impact do these factors have on the sustainability of P3 highway projects, and how can identify factor be integrated into a sustainability assessment framework? As you can see from this figure, our framework including 5 sustainability dimensions, and the next slide I will explain the purpose or the goal for each dimension. Starting with the first dimension, economic financial. This dimension seeks to optimize the use of monetary resources throughout the project life cycle to help project stakeholders meet their respective financial goal and to promote local and national economic growth. Moving to the second dimension, the social dimension focuses on social stability and justice in terms of resources and distribution and provision of opportunity, and promoting public engagement in decision-making for an overall improved quality of life. The contractual dimension aims to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of interactions between public and private project stakeholders and enhance their capabilities in achieving their respective goals for the sustainable development. The technical dimension aims to harness modern technological advancements and innovations that can significantly improve processes associated with the project execution, asset management, and sustainable development. Last but not least, environmental dimension aims to maintain long-term environmental quality by utilizing natural resources for the benefit of human beings without causing degradation of the environment and ecosystem. During the data collection analysis, 12 semi-structured interviews and 3 rounds of the Dhafer questionnaire were conducted with the several professional experts in the field of P3s, including public and private sector and academic disciplines. And as you can see from the right figure, most experts came from the private side and some of them from the public sector and the rest of the participants from the academic disciplines. On one hand, the aim of the interviews was to build the contents of the proposed framework, including list of factors. On the other hand, the Dhafer questionnaire was to obtain the consensus or agreement on the expert opinion on the applicability of these factors for the framework, as well as to determining the weights and the priority of these factors in the suggested framework. As you can see, here is the hierarchy levels of the sustainability assessment framework. And the next slide, I'm going to explain these factors. So now we come to the big picture of the screenshot of the framework, which has been divided to 3 levels. And the first level, as you can see on the left side, It represents the 5 sustainability dimensions, while the indicator and sub-indicators fall under these 5 sustainability dimensions as the second and the third levels, with a total of 12 indicators and 65 sub-indicators. Also, it has been customizing an appropriate weighting system that ranks the criteria in the sustainability assessment framework by using what's called an ethical hierarchy process. A weighting values has been given to each dimension, indicator, and sub-indicator, but for the sake of time, I will focus into the first and the second level dimension indicators. The results reveal the weighting system presented in these charts, called the radar or spider chart, to provide a clear picture of the priority of dimension indicators. For example, as you can see from this chart, economic financial was the top priority with almost 30% of the total weight. Then the contractual dimension second with 22%. That was followed by technical, environmental, and the lowest weighting was for the social with almost 13%. Moving to the second level indicator, the top priority to the framework under these indicator are climate change and natural disasters, financial viability, human health and safety, innovative design and construction solution, and finally, the stakeholder engagement. I would like to end by emphasizing the main points. The importance of the rank of sustainability dimension depend on some factors such as the project location, the different perspective between public and private, also the challenges with some of these sustainability rating systems is that the project scope tend to start to creep away outside of what the original project scope. In other words, the project start to expand in terms of scope and cost, so it's important to make sure it stays within some reasonable boundaries. The funding of this research could increase the awareness between the P3 project stakeholder with regard to sustainability of highway infrastructure. This research also demonstrates the relationships between P3s and sustainability by revealing the different perspective between public and private sector. Finally, I would like to thank my advisor, Professor Baris Salman, who has helped me in this research project. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and thank you so much for your attention. Also, I'd like to mention, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I look forward to work together again to inspire the future for the sustainable construction for the next year.